Welcome to the Salem Chamber podcast. I'm Tom Hoffert, CEO of the Salem Chamber, and we're pleased to have you listening. Let's jump right in. Today, I have two very special guests joining the Salem Chamber podcast. One is past president Brent DeHart, and the other is Angie Villery with Travel Salem. You two were a huge part of something incredibly important in our community that literally started to soar on October 5th. What occurred, Brent?
Well, I got to tell you, it's been nice to be in the forefront and be able to talk about it, but really, there are so many things along the way. We would not be here without it. People along the way, efforts along the way, organizations along the way. And I've said it every time, the courage of the Salem Chamber Board of Directors to give you marching orders and say, Tom, let's get this done, and let's invest in this, with Travel Salem as well. So it has been a community event, and I've had too much time on my hands apparently to go after it, and spent a lot of time with the airline and recruiting. Took us 5 years. We had to shift a little gears, but Avelo decided that Salem and the Mid-Willamette Valley, really the whole valley, is a market they want to be in. And they're committing to a longer term, I think, to the city than they normally do. And so we're seeing the return of passenger air service to Salem in the Mid-Valley. And hopefully it's just the beginning. And we're going to see this. I'm just waiting for that snowball to roll downhill. I cannot wait to see how it's going to unfold over the next 5 years.
Angie, on October 5th, that first flight took off out of McNary Field direct to Las Vegas. Tell me a little bit of pride or what you were feeling on that morning. I know it was a powerful one for many of us.
Well, I actually completely blocked out. I'm just going to be really honest. It was so exciting. There were so many things going on. To see that room full of friends and really family that helped bring that together. We were all there together. Many of us were on that first flight. The energy was just electric. To see that plane fly in and pull up. It's something I'll always remember. And there was just a lot of hope in the room. And, along the way, there were a lot of people that, you're never going to get this done. It's just never going to happen. It already failed once with Delta. Well, there's a whole story about that. But there was just a lot of, there was a little bit of pride to say, yeah, we deserve this. And we're here. We've arrived. And we're all getting on that plane today. And this is the first of many great flights that will be leaving out of this airport. It was great.
A lot of key leaders came together in organizations. When you look at Travel Salem, the Salem Chamber, we had the Fly Salem Committee, even the Airport Foundation was involved. Talk to me, Brent, about how you work to assemble so many people together on a common mission, and how did we get to this moment? Because you mentioned 5 years in the making. I recall one of the first items of business I had upon joining the Salem Chamber was a trip down to Coos Bay with you over about 5 years ago, almost, to make a pitch for the Roar Grant Fund. Can you walk us through kind of how things developed from there? Because it's a pretty fascinating story of perseverance and community engagement to really drive this to a pretty fantastic finish line.
Early on, the conversation started a little bit after Amazon announced that they were going to build here. And some members of the community sat down and said, hey, why don't we start talking about this again? We want it back. And it really became a community thing. I sat down with your predecessor and Angie, and at the time the CEO of SEDCOR, and say, hey, are your organizations interested? And how much passion do you have? How much can you commit? What kind of role can you play? And then the conversation, all right, let's buy some data. Because none of us got here by just being cheerleaders. None of us decided, hey, we think it's going to work. We actually bought the data. We passed the hat. So these were local business people, interested-minded people. Michael Roth played a huge role in this. He was hosting community gatherings and pitches. And so we bought the data. The data looked incredible. We found out how many people were flying out of the Mid-Valley, where they're flying, how much they paid, and all of these things. And so we were really compelled by that. We had a community forum. The Chamber put together a special forum after their season into June. And I think a normal forum, you usually do 175 people or so. There were 260 people at this forum.
I think
And
we
they,
did a joint forum. I think
yeah,
we
and
did it with all the groups.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they came from Corvallis, they came from McMinnville, all around the valley, and we were able to do some flash voting and stuff. So we had the data, and then we had the community buy-in, and then we went after some money, Tom, and put together a grant package because we didn't have a revenue source. The city was not paying for this recruitment. The city never paid for any portion of the recruitment. But we were fortunate to get a grant from the Oregon Department of Aviation. It's funded by aviation dollars, by aviation fuel tax dollars, actually. And actually, most people don't know this. We were really the only successful ROAR grant awardee. Initially, Medford went after money, and then they found out their use was not allowable. Klamath Falls was the same story. And we came in at a different stage. We came in and we want to start recruiting. Redford was like, we are in business and we want to expand. But we have nothing in Salem, and we want to start recruiting. And from then through today and beyond, we've been able to pay most of the bills for this recruitment process with the grant fund, plus some raised dollars from private fundraising that the chamber has been managing for the last 4 years.
Yeah, I think of the partnership that the Salem Chamber and Travel Salem embarked on this, and really the chamber on the grant fund. But now, Angie, this really the promotion and the sustainability, a lot of this shifts over into the camp at Travel Salem to manage the investment dollars that businesses have made, to help the airline mitigate some risk. But tell us a little bit, now that we have that commercial air service started, what does your organization do to wrap around now from a marketing end and an excitement end to build, the travelers who are taking part in both coming in to the community and exiting?
Yeah, there are multiple layers to how we're having to move on this in terms of the marketing side. We need to raise awareness here locally within the region, all the way up to Wilsonville, and so forth, that you can now fly out of Salem. So there's that piece. We need to soften the marketplace, so to speak. And then we're also marketing in the destination hubs as well, so Vegas and Burbank or Oakland, so folks can fly into the destination. So we have a pretty robust marketing budget that is supplied by the ROAR grant. There's also some additional funding that Travel Salem has committed to this. And we're using those dollars to do that promotion, to raise the awareness, to drive those ticket sales. And, we're super excited about the success so far. When the service announced, I think in that first week they sold 4,000 tickets is what the airline told me. They had the best West Coast state launch they've ever had here in Salem. And we've continued that success and trying to back end it with all the marketing that we're doing. And it's been really positive that people can see billboards around, they're getting the social media ads, and some other things that we're doing as well. I won't go into a lot of detail, but it's robust and it's paying off. So we're filling those seats.
Tom, we got to tell you a little inside story here that's amusing because we have been speed dating airlines. So we go to these conferences and their recruitment conferences, and it is literally speed dating. You get 20 minutes, and make the most of it. And we would sit down with anywhere from 3 to 6 or 7, airlines over a couple of days. And we'd have our consultant, who has been fabulous, put together a great package with data, industry, and community. Our community on this Mid-Valley is growing faster than our peers on the West Coast. The population's growing faster, and the economy is growing faster than a lot of peers all along the West Coast that already have service. So we were able to introduce the Mid-Valley to these airlines who really didn't know we're not Gresham. They don't know we're not Beaverton. They don't know we're not Metro, adjacent. So it's been great. But the funny part of the story is I'm pitching these numbers and this data and this and that and how great it is, and we're going to buy. This is how many tickets we buy. And Angie comes in and goes, "People are wanting to fly here. Let me tell you why people want to fly here." And it was awesome. She comes in with her charm and she goes, "Yeah, the outbound's cool and everything, but people are going to come here because they're going to river raft and they're going to go to Silver Creek Falls and they're going to taste the wine and they're going to go to the ocean and they're going to run triathlons, and we have all these events." And she's right. She's right, and that's why you tell people in Las Vegas when it's 115 degrees to come up and taste some wine in the Mid Valley because you say, "Have you heard of Pinot Noir?" And so it's been great. And Angie has been that other flip flop thing, and I'm a male and she's a female, and I'm all data, and she's all like, "Isn't this great?" And this is she's like cheerleading for the community and everything. So it was a really great 1-2 punch.
Well, you guys did a great job in recruitment. And I remember you guys going to different locations to do these pitches. Let's talk about the individual that you mentioned. That's Jack Penning, who has been a terrific partner of ours. Tell me about how Jack armed you two with information. I know, Brent, you talk about the encatchment area being much larger than the city itself. I mean, we have people all the way down from Albany and all of Corvallis who are looking at this as an incredible, and quite honestly, people in southern Portland, this is a much quicker, easier out if the destinations are in alignment. So talk to me about Jack's role in this and how he was a real big asset to giving us the data behind understanding the numbers that were in the data.
Yes, and he's got great graphs, and I'm a spreadsheet junkie, and graphs and charts. And so we had the convincing data, but to have Jack as an asset, because he lived in Portland. He lived in Northwest Portland, and his credibility in the industry is amazing. So he knows all the route planners of all the airlines. He doesn't let us waste our time. But he would sit there and say, "I live in Northwest Portland. I've got a morning flight. Most mornings, I can get an I-5. I can be at Salem Airport quicker than I can be at PDX." And the route planner's like, "Oh, yeah, I had no idea. You're kidding." He goes, "No, it's that bad in Portland." So that pain point of getting to PDX, frankly, has been one of our selling points. Not only are we further away than people think we are, but the pain point of getting there and the traffic in the metro area. And he was the living example. They already respect his opinion. He already has data presentation to back it up, and he has the personal piece to add to it. And he's he's a solid professional with great presentation skills.
And he also, I mean, I think the other piece that he really brought to bear was he prepared us. And I think he prepared the airlines too to kind of shift the perspective. Going into this, we originally wanted a major hub, major city, major carrier, major city, major hub, sorry. And as we went through COVID, things really started to shift, and Jack really saw where the gap was and how we could fill that niche. And he helped, I think, shift that dialogue that we could now be the Portland South, serving the ultra low-cost carrier market and drawing those carriers into the picture. And man, he nailed it. And that really is how we have become our own value proposition. We are not an alternative to Portland. We are our own thing. We have our own service profile. And I think he was incredibly, significant in helping that happen.
The player that is our bus, that is landing and exiting, let's talk about Avelo a little. As an airline, they have a very unique story, kind of a low-cost carrier. But I was amazed. I was on that first flight, and I looked around. I'm like, this is a brand new airline. It's in beautiful shape. It's not maybe what you'd think about in a low-cost carrier. We received water, and some of the things, maybe myth break a little. And tell us about Avelo. What do we know about the carrier, and tell us a little bit about their story.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks for the question, because people haven't heard of them. They've been in the business. They insanely launched service spring of 21, right in the throes of the pandemic, along with another similar competitor. What's key with Avelo is who's at the top. And the gentleman who's the CEO of Avelo's launched Avelo, also launched Allegiant. So Allegiant has been an incredible success story in the aviation industry. He was there 15 years. He was the first president of Allegiant. Before that, he was CFO at United. He's on the board of a South American airline. I think he launched a Canadian airline as well. He's a serial aviation entrepreneur and really highly respected. So it's easier for him to go out and get money to invest. And he's kind of starting this with a very much an Allegiant model. Let's take people in secondary markets. Let's take them to the sun. Let's take them where they want to go. So we're after our 4 top markets. But yeah, Avelo is buying these aircraft, and they're 737s. I think that surprises everyone. I see Facebook posts of people like they're just guessing that it's small. I'm like, no, it's 147 seat. It's a 737. So people are surprised, and they're kind of pleasantly surprised about that. That where somebody said, "Oh, it's a puddle jumper," and I'm like, "No, it's a 737." So they fly all Boeing 737, 700s and 800s. That's all they fly, and we expect them to grow on the West Coast as they have on the East Coast, even more. They had plans. They were saying when on the week that we were launching in Salem, they said in the next 12 months we hope to open 15 markets.
Wow.
Major expansion mode, something that the major carriers that we were recruiting initially, like Angie said, are not doing.
Yeah, they were contracting, a number of them throughout COVID, and that's why a very unique time to launch a new airline effort, but maybe found the sweet sauce there.
Mhm.
Talk to me about their trajectory. You mentioned new route possibilities. Maybe for the people listening, what are the four top destinations, Brent?
Well, they told the city and told us that we'll start with two destinations with Burbank, Hollywood Burbank. We should say that because it is really right next to Hollywood where I used to live. And then they're going to add the Bay Area by next summer, for next summer. And hopefully for next winter is Phoenix. Now, they don't currently fly in and out of Phoenix. So they have some route planning to do. They have to be able to get gates and gate availability and things like that. But that's kind of the plan. In addition to if things are going well and they're going to fly to 4 or 5 destinations out of Salem, then they may station aircraft here. And that's a whole another level of economic development because pilots live here, the crews live here, the mechanics live here, and there's some a whole pile of good paying jobs that are aviation related.
Yeah, there was a lot of excitement with the crew as they got on. They were not Salem residents, and they were very excited to be on that first flight and provided great service. I thought both pilots and the service personnel were great. Angie, we're people who professionally we love our city with great pride. I love our business community. You love the amenities. When you're talking to your people outside of Salem, wine country has to be near the top of what you speak about. What
It
other
is.
things are you selling about Salem?
Well, that's kind of the beauty of the space I live in every day. I mean, where do I start? Where do I end? I mean, it's just boundless here. We are so incredibly fortunate to live here. Um, the the mountains, the rivers, the recreation, the culture, the culinary scene is incredible. What people come here for maybe isn't necessarily even what they do when they're on the ground here. The impetus to come here may be to come to the capital city of Oregon, but more and more the impetus is to come here for our wine country. And so now folks can fly directly into Oregon's wine country. The Willamette Valley has been named the next Napa, and we knew that long before they said it. So there's so many wonderful things that people can do here. Our recreation is world class. I mean, you can name Silver Falls. Opal Creek is exquisite. Much of it is still shut down from the fires. But we have the rivers. We have wildlife refuges here. We have the Elsinore Theater, which is the last Tudor Gothic theater west of the Mississippi, interestingly enough. We have Enchanted Forest. We have just, you know, and all of our little amazing restaurants and retailers and oh my gosh,
And the arts have
and the
exploded too.
arts have
Compared
exploded.
to 15 years ago with the theater scene that we have, et
Hmm.
cetera, the
Yeah,
arts have really exploded.
performing arts here is really something to experience. So it's such an easy story to tell. I get really excited about it. And we have one of a kinds here. And that's really what's cool about the traded sector. We often talk about economic development in the traded sector. You can't export Hallie Ford Museum. You can't export the late John Ritter, who was such an incredible asset to our community. These people and these assets live here, and so that's what differentiates us. As I travel across the country and talk to my peers, they're promoting wine country in Jersey, and I'm like, wait, Jersey? You don't. You need to come check out the real wine country. But we're up against that kind of thing, and so the richness that we have here, and how we can legitimately call ourselves a premier destination. It's wonderful. And this airline, we've been a drive market, so gas prices do impact how people travel. And the decisions that visitors are making these days are they're like, I don't care. I've saved up some money during COVID, and I'm going to travel. I'm going to go experience and create memories for my family. So we're not seeing that necessarily, but gas prices have impacted travel. But now we're a fly destination as well. And how beautiful is that?
I remember when we were, deep in recruitment and an airline had not yet been identified, but one of the things that you had mentioned is there are just certain events or conferences that will not come to a community unless there is access to commercial air service. Could you dig a little bit into that and maybe how you see that transforming now that we are landing commercial flights in Salem?
Yeah, that's such a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. So when we go to different conferences and trade shows where we're talking to meeting planners or event organizers or sports planners on getting them to bring their events here, many of them want to know where is the closest airport. And unfortunately, yeah, maybe by miles it says it's like 45 miles or 50 miles, but by time, we're talking significant. So they want to have within 30 minutes to an hour max, and even the hour's pushing it, whether or not they're going to decide to bring their delegates here. They don't want to have them land in an airport and then spend, all this time in a car driving. They have to, pay for that transportation. It's just the logistics and the cost of that. So many of them have said, when you get air service, give us a call. We'll be there because they do want to come here. And so it is going to open that door for opportunities we could not have otherwise. I'm really excited. Ironman is on board to promote that next year, that those athletes can fly directly in here. And we have a lot of participants that come in from California, particularly that area. So yeah, it's just another wonderful way that people can access this market. And we're going to really exploit that, trust me.
If I may, I got to add that because your question prompted, we need to acknowledge VIPS Industries. They manage the conference center, and they own the Grand Hotel. And Steve Johnson and his leadership, huge part of this. And if we needed a few dollars, if we needed something, and Steve Johnson was like, "What do you need? How can we help?"
He was terrific, and so was Dick with No.
Oh, Dick, all along the way.
Yep, so
Michael
amazing.
Roth, great names.
Yeah, this is, and you talk about, I've seen the business community just obviously incredibly excited about this. Not just for access, but also our hospitality industry sees the potential for making sure people have a great experience while they're here, fine food, arts and cultures, as you mentioned. There is a portion of this. We talk about the private sector stepping up and getting financially behind this and wanting to book flights. And then we talk about the efforts of the kind of the nonprofit and the shareholders to bring this in. Talk to me a little bit about the role that government played in bringing this to fruition, because you can't bring a project on like this without some federal and some local support. And we had our mayor very behind this and city council. Can you give me a perspective of how that occurred over the number of years? Because interestingly, the council that ultimately got to celebrate the first flight really wasn't made up of the same individuals that first put their foot down and said, yes, we're going to help bring this to town. So it's been kind of a dynamic along the way where you have a lot of different players involved to get to that first flight. Tell me about the involvement of the city and on the federal side, how you saw that involvement.
It's an amusing story and quite a path. Former Mayor Chuck Bennett told me several times, he said, "Hey, it's great. I hope you guys get it. Don't ask for any money. This council won't support you." And ultimately, Chris became the mayor, and by the time this came forward, so the council has been very supportive. And a lot of people were pessimistic, and we have to give them their due. People were pessimistic that politically and budget constraint-wise that the city would support us. We basically did all of the recruitment and paid for it with community effort and dollars, right, along with the grant. But Chris Hoy, you got to give him his due because he took some leadership and he took some political chances against people who, were his demographic that didn't think it was a great idea. But he can see Salem's future, and he uses the term, we're growing up and into this small city thing and away from the big town thing. And Vanessa Nordyke has been a stalwart supporter in her council position. And ultimately, I think most all votes came to almost unanimous. They spent some money to bring the terminal up to where it needed to be. Once it got to the place where you're going to have to do this, the city council has been very supportive, and we give them kudos for that. In addition to that, county commissioners are supportive. State Representative Raquel Moore-Green. Oh my gosh, Tom, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about this without State Representative former State Representative Raquel Moore-Green. She was able to allocate money that was state money that went to the city that provided money to buy all the ground equipment that you need when an airplane comes in. So it was over $540,000 that she used with her political allocation and will and got it through. We wouldn't have had flights. Nobody was coming up with $500,000 to buy equipment. So we want to thank her for that. Senator Wyden, Senator Merkley, U.S. Representative Schrader, all of them wrote letters early on in support of getting our federal grant, which came down the line. So Senator Wyden and his staff toured the airport. Most recently, U.S. Representative Salinas has toured the airport. So people are excited about this, about Oregon. Senator Wyden said, this is important for Oregon. This is the capital, and this is, So from our U.S. senators down to our city councilors, it's been great.
Well, and I want to add as well, I think Senator Wyden played a very critical role in helping us break through some serious red tape, frankly. We had to get TSA on board. They had to mount this, get the right equipment in place, approve our security plan, and that required a little bit of pressure originally. When we were told it's going to take 18 months to get up and running, we're like, oh, we've only got really a few months here. and he really stepped up, and they were fabulous. I have to say, TSA was absolutely great to work with. I've heard nothing but wonderful things from airport staff. They really did step up. And so there's so many pieces that came into play to really make this happen, and there's a lot of people to thank.
Yeah, I think the Mayor Hoy's really steadfast support helped drive our city staff to quicker outcomes. And I think of Jim Bonnet coming out of retirement to take a task like this on from a leadership standpoint, Brian Martin. And then you have airport manager John Pascal, who was tasked with much of the certification and badging. And now we have a really secure airport. And you speak the words of growing up, but Salem Airport is now a commercial landing spot. I would say we're safer today on those grounds than ever before. And Brent, you see that behind the scenes. Talk to us a little bit about what it means when a carrier lands to your staff team, and maybe describe how your company assists in getting them fueled up and turned around and then back off the ground.
Yeah, it's fun and scary. It's fun and scary. And, we could do a whole podcast on the importance of the region of the airport that people don't know. The life flight element, the agricultural element, the emergency element, business flights and everything else. And there's so much that goes on, the National Guard, and the people don't even know all of the different economic sectors that are touched because we have the airport. But we were successful. My company, 5 employees, Tom. I'm one of the chamber's small members, right? 5 employees. And it speaks to the chamber, I got to say, to have me as a past president, that I'm not some bigwig, multinational. I'm 5 employees. But our company bid to do the services for Avelo Airlines and got the RFP, and it was awarded. And I've hired about 6 more people now. So now, and there's so much going on, and there's so much training, and there's so the flight arrives, and I have worked a half dozen of those flights on the ramp. So I'm in my yellow vest, I got my little glow sticks and everything, and but safety is so paramount. We were drilled by Avelo, and I did probably 30 hours of computer-based training. We worked flights in Eugene. A lot of people don't know Avelo's also flying out of Eugene. They have Palm Springs. We would like Palm Springs. But we worked flights for Avelo down there, all the training. So I've got brand new people doing things we've never done. When you check in for your flight, it's a local employee working for a small business chamber member. And the same person is boarding you, and then some of my crew plus the new employees are out on the ramp. We fuel it, of course, but we also provide all these other services that if they need it. So yeah, it's been pretty fun and a little terrifying. It's like the first time you run out there and you disconnect the tow bar from a 737 so we can fly away. You're like, oh, I hope I don't break anything, but it's great. It's been, their training has been great. Avelo invested a lot sending people here to work with us, walk us through things. They gave us 2 extra hours with an aircraft and let it sit here idle so we could touch everything on the aircraft as a group. So they train you everything from how to handle a wheelchair customer to how to make sure the door is secure, safety things, hazmat things. You can imagine the whole list. It's aviation, and so we're very confident that we're kicking it out there, Tom. This Salem business is kicking it, and then we're the first little microcosm of economic development with the new jobs.
Well, let's talk about the trajectory for the airport now. We have some commercial businesses already residing at the airport, some heavily involved, obviously, in aviation. Where do you think this sets the airport up for a long-term success? You had mentioned a possible name change you'd like to see. Would you like to tell us a little more about that?
Well, Angie, I think she'd be the first cheerleader to say we could change, especially as we grow and people are coming in from, when we do get the major carriage or major hub. We want people in Italy who know what Pinot Noir is, and they know what the Willamette Valley is, and they've never heard of Salem. They may not know that Oregon's on top of California, but they know Willamette Valley. We want them to fly here. We would like to include that in the name of the airport, Salem-Willamette Valley. And that'll be recognizable all over the country and all over the world for the wine tourism. And so a lot of those tourism dollars and those room nights, Angie, creating those tot taxes and everything, they're going to come and not be spending it in the metro. They're going to be spending it in the Mid-Valley, so it's pretty awesome.
And Mayor Chris Hoy is very supportive of changing the name of the airport. So there's just a process we have to go through to do that, but it will happen. And we'll be able to leverage that name that has a lot of cachet around the world.
So you asked about trajectory. We are looking forward to going from 4 flights a week to 8 flights a week, hopefully in the next 15 months, right? And if it's doing really well, then our conversations with the other airlines that have taken an interest in us, the ULCC is the acronym for the low-cost carriers, ultra-low-cost carriers. They have an interest in Salem because it's less expensive to operate in, and they still get an incredible population base. You mentioned it earlier, Tom, 650,000 people in our catchment area. I mean, Salem Kaiser MSA is, the statistical area is 425, but when you add the outlying areas, 650,000 people, it's substantial. So we still want long-term a major carrier to major hub. Business-wise, like Tom Hoffert used to travel all over the country selling local goods, right? Local goods all over the country. It would not have served you well, this service. We need people in the business traveler to go to a major hub and be one-stop Salem just about everywhere.
Oh, I would have used Burbank and Las Vegas quite a bit
sure.
professionally. But I did enjoy the Salem into Salt Lake and then on to Raleigh because we had our plant there. Angie, when you look at trajectory from your standpoint, I know Brent is physically at the airport. Where do you see, as you look at opportunities to market Salem, this obviously is a helpful tool. Where do you see air service going as far as from the people coming in? Have you had people come and say, hey, how do I advertise? How do I become part of this connection that Avelo has done at the airport? Are people wanting to advertise with you, get in front of those travelers right when they land? Tell me about that dynamic.
Well, we worked with the city to do all sort of, I guess you would call it the merchandising in the airport as it is. Those beautiful murals in there of the vistas of where we live here. So we really did want to welcome people in and just right away say, you just landed in someplace special, right? So we have that. We have not been approached yet by anyone, but I know it's coming. We are working with influencers both in Vegas and the Burbank area with them to use their credentials and their reach to help spread the word about what we're doing here. So I think we're just honestly seeing the very beginning of what this is going to be. I have a crystal ball, and I looked in it, and it's going to be frickin' fabulous.
Love it.
Yeah, people do have to be a little patient. I think, this is
Yeah.
the first one. And people who, and, kudos to the business community because they bought in for major carrier, major hub, and we didn't get that at first. But I've said over and over, this is what we need to do this to get to that. So as we support this, we get the Bay Area, and as we support that, we get Phoenix, and then maybe Horizon starts being unhappy about market share being taken away. Maybe United sees us completely different, and we get a San Francisco or Denver, and that's where we would like to take Fly Salem. So 5 years from now, we hopefully have daily flights, and we are going to a hub, and we're talking about building a brand new terminal.
I mean, if we look at comparable markets, we kind of have looked at San Luis Obispo, for instance. They're much smaller than us, much smaller, 250,000 population. They had 22 flights a day, right? A day, or was that a
I don't
week?
remember. It was a day.
It was a day.
A lot of departures.
Yeah, I mean, massive, massive service. And then COVID hit, and they lost a lot of that. They're rebuilding it back. But their community also really gets it. They invest, their city and their county invest a lot of money to recruit. So they invest in the incentives to bring the airlines in. They invest in the marketing dollars to market the service once they come in. So they're very competitive. But that is a much smaller market, outperforming and doing great. And we want to get in that same place, and we want to have that same level of investment because this is an engine. This is something you invest in, and it is going to return. The ROI on it's going to be pretty darn remarkable. So yeah, we're very excited.
I just heard you call out the local leadership to invest. That's what I heard right there.
It's got to happen.
Let's talk about this is an airline, Avelo, that has an incredible track record of performance. And one of the first returning flights did get delayed, and definitely caught the attention of some onlookers. But could you give me kind of the historical look at this airline performance-wise?
Maybe I can talk about, I was on that return flight.
Oh, yeah.
So I can talk about that experience, and you talk about the great numbers that we really should be focusing on.
Okay.
So I was on that return flight, and yeah, it was really hard. It was disappointing, but I fly a lot. And I was actually, when we found out that our flight was going to be delayed, I called Jack Penning, our consultant. He's like, girl, he's like, I was on 6 flights this week and only one of them was on time. So this is, these issues that the carriers are having are real, and they're happening to everybody, not just to Avelo, for instance. But Avelo really responded. I mean, this was a legitimate flight concern. This wasn't sort of some Band-Aid or fake problem that they were trying, like they didn't have a crew or something, and I've experienced those kinds of. They had a lavatory on the aircraft that was not working, and they could not fly. FAA, you cannot fly. So they were working very hard to fix that. They had to fly in parts from 3 different locations across the country, waiting for those parts to come in to fix it. And they actually flew in an aircraft from the East Coast to get us home that day. So they gave the folks that were on that flight some credits to fly again. They were very apologetic. They were very transparent. And that was really refreshing. So yes, it was frustrating. We wanted that return flight to be just a slam dunk. But maybe in other ways it kind of was. Like it really showed their commitment to our market, I think. And our mayor was on that return flight as well. And he was on texting the COO and getting guarantees you will get home today. So I was really proud of them that day, even though, it was a little bit of a letdown. But Brent, tell us a little bit about their reputation on on-time delivery.
Yeah, that was bad timing, wasn't it?
That was terrible.
Not a good first impression. A little insider here. The mayor likes to get the airport early, and he got the airport early before he found out it was delayed. And that was really unfortunate.
Like 4 a.m.
And then
early.
I've got a friend who got the notice and he was still in bed. And so he just rolled over and stayed in bed. So the delay was less for them because they got to, they're having brunch and everything. But yeah, really bad timing. Avelo does they actually guard it pretty carefully, their on-time percentage and how many flights get canceled. And out of Burbank, I think they're one of the top or the number 2 best on-time percentages in 2023. Their flights out of Burbank, which is their major hub on the West Coast. It's actually excellent in the industry as far as, and the other key thing is how many flights get canceled. And a lot of carriers probably would have canceled that return flight instead of going to great lengths, expensive lengths to get people home. Mm-hmm. It was bad timing in our first weekend, but I would just say, hey, everybody, let's look at 6 months. Let's see how, over an arc of time, not just the first weekend, and let's give them a shot to prove their on-time performance in Salem.
As somebody who traveled professionally for nearly 15 years, the thought of a delay is kind of what you deal with every day. But I know we had a lot of recreational travelers on that first flight and the like. And I, like you, Brent, really look at holistically. Where does this, show me your track record, and let's look at this a few months down the line to see how the service really is shaping up for our neighbors here in the community, because it is special, and we want that to be something they can count on and the like, and I think we're going to prove that out over time. Okay, so let's talk about you two as leaders. This was a choice, and your community called to action, and Brent, you are so close with air service and understanding the things that a community needs, having been a former city councilor. Angie, you have the view of what builds great community, and that's having amenities and culture and diverse settings for people to experience wonderful things. As leaders, how did you get compelled to want to be at the table for this effort? Because at the start, we didn't know what the finish line looked like, and you could kind of envision, commercial flights coming in and out. That seems simple to envision. But then when you start to talk about when it's going to come to fruition and how long it's going to take, talk to me about that leadership path, and what was your calling? What was the calling for Angie to say, I believe in this, and this is going to be really healthy for our community, and I'm willing to put in 5 or 6 hard years of work to get there?
It has been 5.5 years. Solid. 24 hours a day. Blood, sweat, and tears. I'm kind of not joking a little bit. It's just, I think for those of us that do nonprofit work, you're a nonprofit too, you're a C6. We have a higher calling. I call it soul salary. We're here to do something because we truly believe in it. And I'm very passionate about the work that I do. I see the difference it makes in people's lives. And helping a community grow strategically, smartly, in the right direction. If this is a great place to live, dang, it's going to be a great place to visit. So I've raised my family here, and so I really believe in this community, and air service answers so many things. It's about convenience. It's about a green footprint. I'm an environmentalist. I care about this place that we live in. There's so many reasons that called me to this, and I also felt it was my responsibility to my businesses and the ones that we share. So I had a lot of reasons that called me to it. But before I stop speaking here, I just have to say, none of this would have happened without Brent DeHart. Period.
I agree.
He was the backbone. He was the
consistent.
he was the consistency. He was the knowledge. He had the fire in his pants. He was very, very committed. And I also have to throw it at you too, Tom, because it wouldn't have happened without you either. And so I would also throw the question back to you about what lit the fire in you, to jump on board and do as much as you've done, and all the team that you've committed to this work. But this isn't my podcast, this is yours. So now I will end my little thing and turn it over to Brent. Your passion.
Thanks. I do have passion for the community. I love aviation. And it's easy, and some people have dismissed my advocacy as having a profit motive because we have a business at the airport. I got to tell you, if I were for money, I would have quit a long time ago.
It was upside down there for a while, wasn't it?
Still is.
Still is
for many years. I was in the center of a set of skills and experience and institutional knowledge because I was involved when we recruited Delta. I was on the field, And I also worked with Mike McLaren, Jason Brandt, and we raised funds. And we recruited Delta. I was there then. I've been on the Salem field for now 20 years. Former city council, so I knew a little bit about the politics involved and the budgeting involved and how an airport budget works and where it gets its money. And of course, I'm on the board of SEDCORS, the economic development piece. So a lot of people we've talked about that showed this leadership, everyone's in it for a little different reason. Some people just, it's civic pride. Dick Withnell is like, we're the dang capital. We should have service. This is an embarrassment, right? And somebody would be economic development. We want the jobs, and we want the tourism, and we want to recruit more businesses. And some people, it was convenience. I want to fly. And for VIPs in the hospitality industry, we would like more visitors and make a little more money. So it was all over the board. And I'm all of them. I want to travel. I'm a stage in life where I want to be traveling. I want to fly to Salem. Oh, that's the other thing that drives a lot of people. We don't want to go to PDX anymore. A lovely airport. We don't want to leave 4 hours before our flight anymore. We don't want to get up at 2:30 in the morning. We don't want to pay so much for parking. PDX is a pain. We don't want to pay a toll road up I-5 if that comes to pass. But all of those, and I'm kind of all of them. I want to fly to Salem. I'm not that far from having sold my business and going off in the sunset. So for me, it's just, can we leave this behind? Can we do this, push that snowball off the top of the hill and see what happens in the next generation? That's what's exciting me. It's like, I'm looking at what year will we be talking about a new terminal? At what year will we complete the new terminal? Will we have the same number of flights as Eugene? That I'm looking at something that we can do now that we leave for the next generation.
Yeah, I believe very deeply in the work of all three of us is to leave this city that we deeply love in a stronger place economically.
Amen.
With resiliency. We talk about the emergency services. I listened to Representative, Paul Evans and people who are hyper focused on the Cascadia event and the like. This airport and the level we brought it up to and the terminal due to just this first Avelo movement is actually creating a lot of resiliency for our community long term. So I believe in those sort of things is let's make Salem a better place for our residents and more attractive for people who want to come in and experience what we have. And we have such incredible things here. And the people behind them is really what makes that so special. And that's really attractive for me as a leader is to partner with leaders like you and our city council and our federal delegates. And whether you're just wanting the flight for your own self for ease of traffic, and by the way, that's a very okay reason to want
Right.
commercial flights. Or if you see the larger economic piece in what this can do to help our merchants and our community continue to thrive, that is something we all stand behind and we're proud of as leaders to be one small piece in this because there were so many people that came to the table to make that first flight on October 5th happen. I think where we now focus as leaders is how do we create, the sustainable path forward and actually growth. Because to just tread water and just keep, the 4 flights a week is probably not the ultimate goal. And it is that expansion. In fact, I mentioned it probably too brazenly right in front of Avelo. My goal will be to not just have Avelo here, but Airline B and Airline C all side by side, knowing that they're going to be working together to create a better infrastructure for residents and people who want to come here to have access. To me, it's about access. Mm-hmm. So.
And I can I just also mention one thing I really wanted to say, and I kind of forgot until now. We really landed on something very rare in this moment. Salem was literally the only airport that is bringing new service. Everyone else was adding service. We were the only market that was on the radar to start service. Very, very rare position. And Brent and I and Tom, we had a lot of anxiety around that because we knew we were in this moment where we had to take advantage of it because it wasn't going to come again for a long time.
Yeah, it's a hard sell.
Very, very difficult. And so, that also speaks, I think, to how special this community is. We deserve this moment. We earned it. and we're going to thrive on it. So thank you to all of the partners.
You're a leader in the chamber business community, and we have to tell everybody that when we sat at those tables when we were speed dating, and we said, no, this is a business community initiative. This is not a mayor's campaign promise. This is not an administrator of the airport's send on your way. Made a huge difference, Tom. The people that you represent, the people that you lead, sending us out there and saying, this is a business community drive. The people in the community want this was a huge difference when you're trying to date an airline and try to convince them that we want to get engaged. So I just want to give kudos to the business community that it really gave us a lot of credibility sitting across that table.
I remember talking with the aviation reps at the state level, Department of Aviation. We were the only one that had private dollars. Remember, all of the funds were coming from county and city dollars. And they're like, whoa, these aren't municipal dollars. We're like, no, these are the business community and actual people in Salem saying, we are putting our money where our mouth is. And let's get this air service back to Salem.
Well, as Tom is fond of saying, now let's fill those birds. It will require us all making an excuse to go to Las Vegas. We're going in 2 weeks for my second trip on Avelo, and make an excuse to go to the LA Basin and fill these planes, even if it wasn't in your vacation plans. Let's fill those birds because that's what's going to push the snowball down the hill.
Formula One on the ground in Vegas. They are building the stadiums. It's insane there right now. That is going to be spectacular, man. If you love the cars.
Race time starting at 10 p.m. for the heat, and fascinating.
It's so cool.
Number one destination from our area is the LA Basin, and those planes, I can tell you because I have loaded the passengers. The planes to Hollywood Burbank Airport have been full. 145 on 147 seats the last couple of flights I worked. So there is a lot of demand.
And how about those ones coming in? They're full too.
They're full too.
See what
coming
I'm saying?
in,
Right
and
there.
their family.
I like to hear that.
I was on the plane last week, and there was a gentleman who's thinking about relocating, and he's looking for a different place to live than Las Vegas, and he flew up to Salem to see it. Yeah.
He's never leaving.
And then I see family members checking in and car seats and all sorts of family and friends in the LA area. And to my surprise, because my Facebook feed is full of people going to Vegas. But the planes from Hollywood, Burbank, and back are full of people, and there's a lot of connections there. That part is exciting.
It's right into Hollywood.
Angie, I didn't tell you this.
Oh, no.
We had thought they were going to bring us an empty plane.
I know.
It was the first flight, right?
I know.
And so we thought, well, they'll fly a plane up here, and they will sell from Salem, right? It came up a third full.
Yeah, we were
And we're
tripping
like,
out.
who's in Vegas that wants to come? I mean, how did they even know that they could fly to Salem, whatever? We haven't even marketed in Las Vegas. And somebody got on, a bunch of people, 50 people got on the airplane.
It was incredible. I was so shocked.
We didn't even know that they knew we were here. So, yeah, good stuff.
Not
Good
bad
stuff
for
ahead.
no marketing team.
Yeah.
Nice work. Nice work. Yeah, the mayor was giggling about that as well as he watched them on board. He goes, I didn't even know we had people coming in today.
But we had been marketing there, so maybe if some of those people
You go,
heard.
girl.
Angie,
You
you
just-
are
honestly,
too effective for your own
I
knowledge.
swear.
Oh,
I
Angie.
swear.
Well, this is a conversation with two leaders who have made something incredible happen in our community, and I want to applaud both of you. Brent, you've been just a stalwart and somebody that we know we can count on, this community can count on. You're passionate, and you've given your time to this community. You're not a taker. Brent, you are a giver, and we're so fortunate to have you here. And
Thank you,
Angie, your energy and belief, and you sometimes you were bringing me in your backpack forward, and sometimes I put you in mine, and it was a great partnership, and I was really proud to work with both of you on this. But our work is still ahead, and it's to create long-term success. So thank you so much for the work of Angie Villery with Travel Salem and Brent DeHart with Salem Aviation and Fueling, and past president of the chamber. You did put a ton of time in there. Cannot say enough about working with both of you and your belief in bigger things for Salem. And it rises a lot of us up because we need to be around people who see bigger things for this community. And I count you two in as great partners on that. And every day, let's continue to build this and see great success for Salem Airport. and for our Salem community, because both of you believe in that. This has been a great conversation. Thank you both for sharing the time today.
Thank you, Tom.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Salem Chamber podcast. The Salem Chamber is a 501c6 not-for-profit organization representing nearly 1,100 businesses in the greater Salem area. For additional information, please visit salemchamber.org. This has been a production of Dan Johnson and Lena Prine on the Salem Chamber's professional staff team.